I think the way I work, and I think it's important in my spiritual development to not try to pin things down so much. So basically, when I work with people, I can see all different things, sometimes from other lifetimes, some things in their energy bodies, in their unconscious, and basically have ways of bringing in this positive spiritual energy that seems to help people heal and feel better. I get a big kick out of it when people feel it, because I've worked online, video, and on the phone for like 15 years. So it's just so cool when people are really far away, and sometimes it's a different day there, when they're really far away. And so yes, I don't know exactly how to explain what I do, but we could say it's spiritual counseling and healing. It also, the tone of the sessions varies sometimes with person to person, depending what it is. Like sometimes I just know things that I don't really know. And I remind people I'm not a medical doctor, but sometimes I know medical things, sometimes psychological, always a lot of spiritual things. And then it is almost like praying for someone and just seeing the really good in them, and just this really cool, amazing thing happens. People ask me that also. So for my doctoral treatise, part of the instructions were to look at your life and see something that works for you, basically, and then try to solidify it into a technique. But I decided, even though I knew they were talking about look at my life right then, I decided to look at my life from when I was young and see things that worked through all the years. So that it is a good question. I can kind of look back after having done that to see the line from there to here. Even though my near-death experience was a really big shift, I could see inklings of that beforehand. Something in my life has been pushing me in this direction ever since I was a little kid. I do the interviews, and so two things that seem to have really influenced my life in this direction are women and car accidents. So I just happened to be attracted to girls when I was young that were interested in spiritual things, and women as I got older that were into spiritual things, and it just led me in that direction. I had a few car accidents that were big turning points in my life. I'm hoping that karma is over. I think it is, but if someone would have asked me about what I do now when I was younger, I would have just thought it was total BS. So there's that part. I was brought up in a Jewish family. I went to Hebrew school. Not much of it interested me at all. But some of the mystical, magical things in the Bible, for some reason, for Hanukkah, I don't know if you know the story, but someone had a lamp that with enough oil to last like one day, and it lasted for 8 days. And something in me when I heard that story was like, wow, that is magical. And there were some other magical things, and so that wanting the magical thing has been in me since I'm very young. I played sports. I was a total jock as a kid, and those times of performing beyond my abilities that were, again, magical, those are the things I really like. So I could look back and see that desire and that pulling and drawing and nudging towards those mystical, magical things. I wouldn't have described it the same way I do now, but I could see that there. One of my big things, and I tell the story a lot, I saw my grandfather after he passed away in a movie theater in Manhattan, and he was a very unique looking guy. It just would be impossible for it to be someone I mistook for him, and it was before my near-death experience. I just really didn't know what to make of it, and really, surprisingly, just dismissed it, so yeah. Even after my near-death experience, I didn't talk about it for a long time. I didn't know how to describe it. Part of it is I started to meet people after that, teachers, and a lot of them had I say a lot of them, all of them have had near-death experiences that are doing amazing, or were, most of them are passed away, amazing, phenomenal things, spiritually. So you just get to have this experience, this spiritual experience, that there's no doubt. It's not like, I don't know, some things you get in your head and then you wonder if it's true. When you have your near-death experience, there's really no doubt. No matter how people say, how do you know it's true? I know it's true, even though I can't prove it. It's just, I 100% know it. Something definitely changed in me from my near-death experience. Even though I could see the path before that, after that, I have met so many people. And, I mean, it just, it's funny because I have a good friend of mine who I would do a healing exchange with for many years. And, I don't know, she always seemed like not that she does Traeger work, so that's a type of body work. And it was funny because she set up for me to do a talk at a Unitarian church, and she always seemed kind of not interested when I would talk to her about my near-death experience. Anyway, just before I gave the talk, she said, you should ask how many people in the audience have had similar experiences. And she told me when she was young, she would have out-of-body experiences all the time. And I said, why didn't you tell me this years ago? Because it kept crossing my mind. How am I good friends with this person who didn't have a near-death experience? Because like all the people, I feel really connected with have had some sort of experience like that. Yeah, I was actually living in Colorado, in Longmont, Colorado, and my roommate was from my hometown. So we decided to come back east to visit our parents for a little bit, and when we got back, we drove in his car, and when we got back, we found out a young lady that we knew from high school was having a party, so we decided to go. So we both went to our parents' house for a while and rested, and then he came to pick me up, but I decided to take my mom's car to the party instead. And we both lived in Rye Brook, New York. The party was in Mamaroneck, New York, so maybe a 20-minute drive away. At the party, we were definitely partying, drinking, and doing some other things.
As you do?
Yes, in those days. And back then, people didn't really think of drinking and driving. It was, it wasn't such a thing. So I didn't think that I was that high at the end of the party, but in line with what I said, how women have really been a big part of keeping me on my spiritual path. I wanted to connect with the young lady who was having the party, and she was just too busy during the party, so I sort of mocked up being more drunk than I was, and said I needed my friend to drive me home. I'll get my car in the morning, and so I could go back and talk to her. Almost all the way back to my parents, I realized my sister needed to use my mom's car in the morning for work, so I asked my friend. He drove me back to the party. And I do still have the image in my mind, and I should have realized that actually walking out of the house where the party was. I don't remember actually leaving the house, but walking towards the door, I still have the image in my mind, and it looks like someone who's drunk. The image, it's like the colors are a little too bright and a little fuzzy around the edges. And so I got in the car. That part I don't remember. The next thing I remember is being out of my body, looking down. Apparently the car was squished beyond what you would think someone could survive, and my body was like leaning against a tree, and a police officer was crouching over me. So apparently what happened, I hit the tree and the car was smashed, and so it was white light all around me. I was looking this way towards the tree and the car, and part of the surprising part, it seemed totally fine that my body looked dead and my head was smashed and everything. But behind me, and I've often described this over the years, and finally someone said, so you must have been able to see behind you. I didn't even think of that. I go, yeah. So I I knew what was behind me, even though my eyes were facing this way. There was a big white circle, a different shade of white than that was all around me, and then like a light being that was behind me inside that circle. And that light being, again, all these different shades of white, was radiating white with a little tiny bit of gold at the end of these white radiating beams of light out of that. And then the being behind me said, "You have to go back, your father wants you to stay." Something I didn't know right then, that father was God, not my physical father. And I just thought, well, everything just seemed so perfect. There was a part of it just, even though my body was there, I still felt like I had a body, and it just felt so nice. So, like, even I can close my eyes and feel it, just like everything is right. Everything is perfect. I'm loved, and that's what it felt like. And so then I went back into my body and came to 3 days later in the hospital.